For 30 years, I lived in a gilded cage in Greenwich, Connecticut, a daughter of privilege, showered with everything except warmth. Henry and Veronica Hayes were my parents, cold, successful, and utterly joyless. They possessed the kind of wealth that insulated them from genuine feeling, turning every interaction into a calculated performance. I always felt like a prop in their perfect life, a tasteful accessory next to the imported marble and the rare, untouchable first editions lining the library walls. Our conversations were transactional. Inquiries about my career at the Manhattan Gallery, a career they deemed quaint but socially acceptable, always circled back to the Hayes legacy or the next big fundraising gala. I was 30, and the emotional vacuum of my childhood was a constant, dull ache, one I had long rationalized as the price of sophistication. Then, a few weeks after the death of the grandfather I barely knew, everything shattered. Wallace Hayes, a man whose presence was as heavy and distant as a stone monument, had passed away, leaving behind an estate complicated enough to require a lawyer's steady hand. My own legal dealings with him were minor, which is how I came to know Marcus Thorne, an astute but generally low-key estates lawyer with a reputation for discretion. The text message arrived on a Tuesday afternoon while I was reviewing an abstract expressionist piece, trying to decipher the artist's turbulent emotional landscape. The name Marcus Thorne flashed on my screen, followed by the all-caps command that instantly sliced through my professional calm. Call me immediately. Do not speak to Henry or Veronica until we talk. The urgency felt like a physical shock. My heart hammered a frantic, irregular rhythm against my ribs. I excused myself, claiming a headache, and ducked into the gallery's chilly concrete storage room. Marcus? It's Abby. What is it? Did Henry contest something? Is he trying to tie up Grandpa's assets? I whispered, my voice tight, already anticipating some financial maneuvering. Marcus's tone was sober, stripped of his usual dry professional irony. The sound of his inhaled breath was long and deliberate. Abby listened to me very carefully. You cannot go home, and you absolutely cannot talk to Henry or Veronica. Not about this, not about anything. You need to maintain complete operational silence. Are you alone? Is your phone secure? Are they by any chance tracking you? Tracking me? What are you talking about? I scoffed, but the sound was brittle, dissolving quickly into fear. Henry Hayes had built his empire on corporate surveillance and strategic intelligence gathering. The idea of him extending that paranoia to his own home was terrifyingly plausible. Just meet me. My office, 7 p.m. Use a payphone or a burner if you have one before you come. I have documents, Abby. Everything about your life, everything you believe about your parents, is a lie. They aren't your parents. The blood drained from my face, making the fluorescent light of the storage room swim. The noise of the busy gallery suddenly felt miles away, muffled by a thick layer of disbelief. What are they then? If not my parents, who are they? Who are you saying I am? I demanded, the curator's coolness completely gone, replaced by the desperate plea of a child lost in a psychological maze. Marcus sighed, a heavy sound of professional discomfort. You are Abigail Hayes, but the names listed on your adoption decree, Henry and Veronica, are actually your paternal aunt and uncle. Your biological father, James Hayes, was Henry's younger brother. James died in a catastrophic car accident when you were an infant, just 9 months old. And Henry and Veronica didn't adopt you out of some noble, familial love. They adopted you because of the specific, highly unusual terms of Wallace's original will, which created a massive, protected, 7-figure trust fund exclusively for the last surviving child of James Hayes. They needed you to be legally their child to access, and more importantly, control that money. They cut you off from your entire true history, erased your father's memory, and the way they executed the adoption. It was illegal. Abby, we're talking criminal fraud. I stood there, gripping the cold plastic of the phone, feeling the immediate, deep-seated chill of being fundamentally unmoored. 30 years of strained holiday dinners, of cold, conditional affection, of expensive boarding schools that were more about status than care, all reduced to a calculated financial transaction. The truth wasn't just a revelation. It was a physical erasure of my past. The persistent, crushing emotional distance I had always felt wasn't my failure as a daughter. It was deliberate. It was the impenetrable wall of guilt and calculation they had built around a stolen life. I took the long way to Marcus's office, walking for blocks through the city, trying to reconcile the elegant, powerful man who signed my checks with the petty, thieving conspirator Marcus described. I finally arrived, bypassing the Greenwich police station by a hair's breadth, feeling like I was stepping into a clandestine thriller. For the next 5 hours, the meticulous, terrifying architecture of their deception unfolded before me. Marcus, seeing the initial devastation in my eyes, had wisely switched from comforting friend to hyper-focused legal advisor. My father, James Hayes, had indeed been the black sheep, the passionate, rebellious artist who had rejected the family's corporate legacy. He died suspiciously, and now suspiciously opportunely, in a car accident. Wallace, fearing Henry's characteristic greed, had meticulously stipulated in his will that the 7-figure trust fund, meant to give James's only child complete financial independence at age 30, could only be administered by a court-appointed, non-Hayes custodian unless the child was legally adopted by someone outside the bloodline. Henry and Veronica, desperate for the money to shore up one of Henry's failed early ventures, realized they couldn't be the court-appointed custodians. So they hatched the plan. The adoption decree they filed wasn't a true, legal adoption. It was a rushed, fraudulent guardianship application disguised as one, using a network of obscure, paid-off lawyers and officials in a small, forgotten state in the Midwest, far from Connecticut's stringent jurisdiction. They had systematically diverted portions of the trust's income into offshore shell corporations Henry controlled, all while maintaining the veneer of the loving, supportive guardians who only had their daughter's best interests at heart. As the sheer scale of the financial figures and the complex, paper-thin trail of lies sank in, the acute emotional pain gave way to something far colder and more dangerous. The cold, clean calculation of a survivor. I was not a fragile art curator anymore. I was a Hayes, and whatever Henry Hayes had done, he had inadvertently taught me how to strategize, how to analyze a vulnerability, and how to maintain a ruthless public front. What do I do, Marcus? Call the police? Demand answers? I asked, my voice calm enough to surprise both of us. The tremor was gone. That's phase 2, Abby. And it's too easy for them. Henry is a master obfuscator. Phase 1 is proving their current guilt. Henry has been pulling money out of the trust lately, preparing for your 30th birthday next month, when the full principal finally transfers directly to you, making it truly untouchable for him. He knows the clock is ticking and he's scrambling to finalize his final, biggest theft. We need to catch him in the act of diverting the last, biggest chunk. You need to go home. You need to act exactly as you always have. Passive, detached, and utterly ignorant of the world outside your gallery. The more they believe you are a lightweight, the harder they will fall. That night, I returned to the Greenwich mansion. The moment I walked through the heavy mahogany door, Henry met me with a condescending smile, already pouring himself a scotch. You're late, Abigail. Did you get caught up in one of your little abstract gatherings? Remember to network with people who can actually write checks, not just talk about texture. Veronica, sipping Chardonnay in the drawing room, merely nodded, her eyes sliding past me as if I were expensive, but ultimately forgettable. Wallpaper. Their arrogance was blinding. They truly believed I was too vapid, too self-involved, and too financially dependent on their goodwill to ever question the source of my comfort. I settled into the performance of a lifetime. I feigned interest in Veronica's upcoming charity event, the Grand Gala of the Sterling Foundation, an annual fundraiser for a local hospital. The perfect stage for my retribution. Meanwhile, I worked in secret. I knew Henry kept his most sensitive documents, the real ones, not the decoys, in his secure library, a room he thought was impenetrable. The safe was a state-of-the-art Italian model. But Henry was a creature of habit. I used the training I had picked up over years of watching him. The faint, almost invisible smudge on the safe's brass knob. The telltale rhythm of his breathing as he entered the 6-digit code after one too many late-night whiskeys. It took 2 agonizing nights, lying outside the library door with a parabolic microphone, purchased with my own gallery savings, and high-grade noise-dampening headphones, recording the subtle clicks and pauses. On the 3rd night, I was inside. The files were breathtaking in their cynicism. The original detailed will of Wallace Hayes, the fake adoption papers with notarized signatures from people who didn't exist, the wire transfer receipts to the Midwestern officials, and the current illegal diversion orders for the final third of the trust fund, scheduled for transfer 3 days before my 30th birthday. I photographed everything with a tiny camera phone, meticulously logging the file names and dates, transferring the data instantly to Marcus's secure server. The evidence was irrefutable. Not just deception, but criminal grand theft, conspiracy, and identity fraud. The following week, the atmosphere in the house tightened, but not because of me. Henry was manic, focused solely on finalizing his biggest financial maneuver in years, a corporate acquisition he was leading. Veronica was consumed by the gala, which she expected to be the pinnacle of her social year, securing her spot as the unchallenged queen of Greenwich philanthropy. The day of the grand gala arrived. I was not merely attending, I was a key participant. Due to my position at the gallery, I had curated the silent auction, bringing in several high-profile pieces that had drawn significant media attention and press coverage. My dress, a deep emerald silk chosen specifically to draw the eye and contrast with the pale, washed-out colors of their gilt, felt less like fabric and more like armor. Henry and Veronica were ecstatic, completely oblivious to the fact that I was wearing the color of their imminent fall. As we arrived at the venue, a ballroom filled with the most influential financial and social figures of Connecticut, Henry pulled me aside, his voice thick with pride. "You've done well, Abby. This year's auction looks fantastic. Good job on finding that hideous modern sculpture. It's exactly the kind of pretentious piece that gets attention. Now smile." "I try my best, Father," I said, my smile genuine this time, fueled by a deep, icy certainty that he would never again address me with that condescending moniker. The moment came during Veronica's keynote speech. She stood on the stage, basking in the applause, her voice dripping with artificial compassion as she talked about the importance of family, legacy, and giving back to the community that has given us so much. As she moved to the final, most emotional part of her speech, where she was set to present a fake $1 million check to the hospital chairman, money that likely came from Henry's embezzled accounts, I walked calmly toward the media riser. I had prearranged a meeting with a sharp investigative reporter from the New York Times, telling him I had an exclusive story concerning major corporate and personal fraud involving a prominent Greenwich family, scheduled for 8:30 p.m. It was 8:31. I didn't interrupt Veronica directly. Instead, I waited until she finished, accepted her applause, and was shaking the hospital chairman's hand. Then, I stepped up to the microphone stand at the edge of the stage, my face impassive, my voice a beacon of icy clarity. "Before we move on to the auction," I began, my voice clear, amplified, and resonating with undeniable authority, "I, Abigail Hayes, have a small, crucial announcement regarding the concept of legacy, and more specifically, the ethics of the Hayes family." The sound instantly drew Henry's horrified, disbelieving gaze across the ballroom. Henry lurched forward from his VIP table, his face mottled with terror. "Abigail, get away from the microphone. This is ridiculous. You're drunk." Veronica, still on the stage, looked like a statue carved from ice, her fake smile dissolving into a rictus of pure fear. I raised my hand, silencing Henry's bluster, my eyes locking onto his. For 30 years, Henry and Veronica Hayes have presented me as their beloved daughter. Tonight, I am here not as their daughter, but as their victim. The truth is, my name is Abigail Hayes, and I am the daughter of James Hayes, Henry's deceased younger brother. Henry and Veronica fraudulently obtained custody of me, lying to the courts and to me, my entire life, not out of any sense of familial duty, but to illegally gain control over a massive, 7-figure trust fund established by my grandfather, Wallace Hayes, for my security. A collective, audible gasp swept through the room, the sound louder and more dramatic than any planned announcement. The NYT reporter was already clicking photos and recording audio, his eyes glittering with professional triumph. I continued, my voice measured and devastatingly calm. "They have been systematically stealing from this trust, the fund my true father set up for my security. As of this morning, Marcus Thorne has filed a criminal complaint with the State Attorney General's office, citing grand theft, conspiracy, and identity fraud. I have also filed an immediate civil suit to reclaim not just the principal, but all illegally diverted funds and the substantial financial damages caused by their 30 years of deception and emotional abuse. I looked directly at Henry, who was now being physically restrained by a panicked board member, desperately trying to reach the stage. You built your empire on lies and greed, Henry. Tonight, your empire collapses because you underestimated the one person you were too arrogant and too lazy to truly know. I am not your passive little art curator, and I will be reclaiming every cent you stole, including the reputation you so carefully crafted. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic. The CEO of Henry's firm, present at the gala, received an emergency call and immediately announced an internal investigation, and placed Henry on indefinite administrative leave. The next day, the wire services carried the story of the socialite couple arrested on multiple felony fraud charges. Veronica's philanthropic career was instantly destroyed. Her board seats evaporated within hours. Henry's corporate acquisition fell apart, tanking his company's stock. Within 2 months, Henry was facing multiple indictments, and the civil court had frozen all his non-essential assets, and was moving aggressively to pierce the corporate veil on his shell companies. I didn't seek emotional closure. I didn't need their apology, nor did I want their pity. My revenge was in the cold, hard, legal reality of their total ruin. The court swiftly moved in my favor. I was awarded the full trust fund, the ill-gotten gains they had siphoned, and a substantial part of their remaining estate to cover the decades of legal and emotional damages. I sold the cold Greenwich mansion immediately. I used the proceeds to establish an independent foundation in my true father's name, James Hayes, dedicated to supporting young, independent artists, the legacy they had tried to erase. I was 30 years old, financially independent, and finally, truly free. The trauma of the lie lingered, a ghost I acknowledged but no longer served. It was overshadowed by the profound satisfaction of having taken down 2 titans of greed, using the very rules and ruthless precision they had once tried to weaponize against me. I didn't just walk away from my past. I dismantled it, piece by fraudulent piece, and built a genuine, truthful future on the rubble.